Okay, hi everybody. It's awful good to be here, and I'm glad you took time off from the sky, the blue sky that finally cleared up. Okay, our front yards, our landscapes add value, beauty, and livability to our homes, and keeping them water efficient is just one good step in being a good steward. And Western Washington has a Mediterranean type climate, which has nice, mild winters, but wet, and long hot or short hot summers without any rain usually. Our dry periods usually last from July through September, and this combination of dry days and summer heats cause an awful lot of stress to the common landscape plants that most of us have in our yards, unless we irrigate them regularly. This talk will be able to show you some of the trees, shrubs, bulbs, perennials, ground covers, and grasses because they are perfect for our Mediterranean style climate. And you'll be able to have really good color, diversity, texture, and beauty in your landscape without it looking like it's stark and bare. So I'd like to ask you, why are you interested in using water efficient landscaping in your home garden? Hot summers are hard on your existing shrubs, and for sure save time and labor in maintaining the garden. Saving money on water bills. I don't know about you, but ours went up this summer. We also have some environmental concerns, and we'll be talking about these. Okay, so let's move on. My personal reason for getting interested in changing the way that we have our landscaping laid out is my hydrangea. I planted that beautiful little hydrangea. I have a column in the Columbia River Reader, and my last one, okay.
And that's your.
So, this is something that really kind of confused me. We plant our plants, they get nice and wet in the winter, and they're talking about drought problems here. What's the big deal? We'll talk about that. What are the key concepts of what comprises water-wise gardening? And then we'll be talking about the plant choices. Did the slide advance?
Yes, it did.
Okay, so it's getting warmer around here, believe it or not, about 2 degrees in the past 100 years. And that doesn't sound like much, but it really makes a difference. And the big difference is in the way we are able to use water. When it's warmer like that, there's less snow, there's more rain, and there's less snowpack in the mountains. That's a big deal. The snowpacks melt earlier, so the snow comes, or the runoff comes off earlier, and there's less water that's available in late summer for us. And that can be a real problem. Our demand for water increases greatly in late summer, or this year in early summer. We also have the problem of population growth. Each Washington family uses more than 300 gallons of water today. And these late summer months are when streams, reservoirs, and groundwater levels begin to get a little bit low, and the temperatures rise and the water becomes very important. And the other thing, conserving our water helps to maintain enough water level and good temperatures for our fish and other wildlife and the native plants that we have. So we do have a concern for water here, even though it's wet all winter. This is a slide I made. I have a backyard little weather thing set up. And according to mine, we are about 5 to 6 inches behind what we usually get. If you look at the Cowlitz County one in general, we're about 4 inches behind. And that makes a heck of a difference. A lot of people are seeing problems with their trees even before the high weather or the hot weather came in, because we were so low in April and May with rain. And so these poor plants started out with a deficit, and that hot weather really, really hurt them. So what are we going to do about it? Our summers are really tough on the water guzzling plants, and most of us have plants that are considered the beautiful landscaping plants because we've seen them in Better Homes and Gardens and Home Beautiful, but most of those are kind of, they suit the eastern side of the United States better because they get rain all the time during the summer and we don't. So we're ending up planting those plants and trying to make them fit in our climate. What we need to do is consider more plants that are sippers of water and not guzzlers. Native plants can fit the bill, and so can plants from other summer dry climates. There really are a lot of colors that'll make people happy to, it's not going to be stark. It's going to be beautiful. You can choose a lot of bulbs, native plants, herbs, ornamental grasses. There are trees, shrubs, and vines that all will look beautiful in our landscape and don't guzzle water. I think a lot of people have the idea that if you have some kind of a drought resistant garden, it's got to look like on the left where it's all gravel and a bunch of cacti, but that's not the case. The landscape on the right, everything in that except for the little bit of turf here is drought resistant. So we're going to go by the components a little bit in detail, but not too much, so you won't lose attention, your attention here. So we're going to talk about planting first. You've got to have a plan. One of the things you need to do right now, because you can probably remember the last 3 months what the sun exposure and everything was in your house, and you need to be paying attention to what it is the rest of this year too as you plan for next year. So go out with a paper and a pencil and a clipboard and start taking an inventory of what's going on in your yard. Look at your site, look at the west side, what's the light, what kind of exposure do you have, which way does the wind come from, is there noise that you'd like to kind of mask, do you have slopes like most of us do, which way does the water drain, look at the soil, do you have decent soil, do you have good drainage, and if you'd like to know how to do that, we can help you. So contact us in the Plant and Insect Clinic. Are there views that you'd like to hide, or would you like to enhance some really good views? So if you don't make a plan, you're likely to make mistakes. You've got to plant the right plants in the right place, and this is a really good place to start. Then you have to go through and specify what you're going to use these areas for, and they all have to tie in with the exposures that you've got. You've got a bunch of little microclimates, and this can differ, due to buildings, pavement, rocks, walls, trees, and balconies. So you want to be able to utilize these places so that you can enjoy the summer breezes and the warmth of the winter sun and protection from wind. So think about that and create a visual relationship between the house and the plantings that you're going to put in there. Look around your neighbors, look at the internet, look at the demonstration gardens, go up to UW's Botanical Garden, and there are a lot of really, really good ideas. I don't know about you, but I'm really challenged when it comes to making landscape plans, but there are just so many ideas out there, and in the handout that's going to be available to you at the end of this, and Gary can send you the link for it. I have a whole bunch of different links where you can go in and get good landscaping layout ideas, and I need something like that. Or you can look around and have a professional draw it up for you. So the next thing that's very important is you've got to have decent soil. You've got to do this, or you're not going to be able to even let the plants that are the drought resistant plants, you're not going to be able to support life there. The good soil provides infrastructure support for the roots. It gives moisture retention. It allows air in around the roots and nutrients, and helps the creatures that live in the soil so that they can break down the organic material to feed your plants. And the roots need both air and water, and in clay soil that can be very difficult. The other problem is soil compaction. If it's new construction or recently new construction, the pounding down, the compaction of the soil can get rid of all those air spaces that are so necessary for a plant to be able to grow well. You've got to have decent drainage. It's good to know what kind of nutrition's in the soil. So a soil test at the very beginning is also a really good place to start. You need to know what your pH is. Here on the on the west side, it's going to be acidic, but you still need to know if it's too acidic and if you need to amend it with lime. Again, a good soil test will tell you that. So what do you do about it if you've got soil that's suboptimal? Add organic matter. I was at a conference one time, and the fellow was talking about soil and how the best thing you can do is, the answer is always add organic matter. And he says, think about it. When you're hungry, what do? You add organic matter. So it's fuel. It's fuel to help things grow. But the organic matter helps that compaction by either foot traffic or construction traffic. And it helps to improve the moisture retention because it's like little sponges in your soil. It helps to support the soil organisms that are going to fertilize your plant, and you'll need to use less fertilizer. You can incorporate the compost about 6 to 8 inches, and then you add a top layer just to give a little bit more support to the soil. You don't want to go any deeper than 6 to 8 inches. You don't want to destroy the soil structure. People, when I first started in Master Gardeners, they always said, well, what is, they told me about organic matter, but nobody ever defined it. Well, it's stuff that comes from living materials. And here are some ideas. Yard trimmings, leaves from deciduous trees. Leaves are an amazing resource. In the fall, if you get them and you run them over with your lawnmower and shred them up, they are amazing. It's an amazing resource. And of course, it's free. Crop residues, you can grind those up and put them into the soil. Manures and manure composts, all those things. One of the most important aspects to think about when you're planning your drought-resistant garden is your lawn. The grass takes more lawn unless you let it go dormant. If you have a beautiful green lawn all summer long, it is the most thirsty and labor-intensive part of your landscape. 100 by 100 foot lawn uses over 6,000 gallons of water a week. If you give it the 1 inch of water over 5 days, that is recommended. I mean, that's a heck of a lot of water, and that's just for 1 week. So you're going to want to plan your turf, the areas that you decide to keep turf on for the different activities that your family does. Now, I like the looks of cottage gardens where there is no grass in the front yard, but most people don't. But there was a study in Colorado. They polled people in a neighborhood, and everybody said they did not like the cottage garden look where there's every single inch is planted with something. But as long as there was a small area of turf, people thought it was acceptable and very pretty. What can you do about it? The most important thing is to start to replace some of your lawn. You can do it with semi or water permeable patio areas like wood, rock, pavers, and gravel. And there are a lot of examples I'll be showing you to give you an idea of what you can do. You can plant it with low water needs plants, and you can mulch. There's also eco lawn mixes that are not grass. They don't require as much mowing. They don't require usually any fertilizer, and they're much more water friendly. That's your traditional lawn. That's what we would like our lawns to look like in the summertime. This is a eco lawn. It's quite pretty. It doesn't end up looking like that. My personal front yard just turned into an eco lawn because we are all clovers now. But this is something that you can do to replace part of your lawn, mix perennials and ground covers. I mean, it's lovely, lovely. And you don't have to mow it, and it takes up a lot less water. Here's a before and after look. You can see the one plant there, that maple, the red maple there, and you can see what they did with that yard. There's no more grass in that side yard, but it's quite lovely. And I think I could do that. I could do that. I'm trying to talk my husband into it. For some reason, he likes his lawn, even though it's all clover. But we'll see. We'll see what we can do. So if you are keeping turf, plan your lawn where you're actually going to be able to use it, not just so that it's pretty. Plan so you can irrigate it easily, because if you don't irrigate it, you're going to end up with a lawn that isn't healthy and it's going to be overtaken with weeds. You know, edge it, make it look pretty. Place the thirstiest plants, if you're going to plant annuals, closest to the lawn, because you will be watering the lawn and the annuals can take advantage of that. Again, plant ground covers, not grass on slopes. A lot of us live on slopes, and I don't know of any of us that plant grass on them because it's impossible. You can't get a mower down there. And your other alternative, of course, is to let your lawn go dormant in the summertime, but that kind of defeats the purpose of having a pretty green lawn. So here are some other ideas for, you know, alternatives. The eco lawn mixes are just fascinating to me. There's a company, ProTime Lawn Seed in Portland, that specializes in this. And if you go to their website, you could get an idea of things that you could do, different options that you can use if you like the idea of having a large green expanse, but don't want the care and the water guzzling aspects of traditional lawns. So how do you, I mean, we've got a lot of lawn out here. We do. So we're not going to start big. We're going to start small. If you replace just a portion of your lawn with planting beds and some, you know, low water native plants, it's much, much easier to do. Like maybe a 4x4 area. Just even that's a start. Ground covers, the evergreen ones, are really great. They can help to define the areas like, you know, sharp angles and driveway strips. And obviously that's what you want to use on slopes. And I personally love ornamental grasses. They come in so many different colors and textures and sizes, and they move with the wind. I think they're absolutely gorgeous. And here's some ideas of what you can do with grasses interspersed with some, that looks like that's either rosemary or lavender on the picture on the left. It's really pretty. So how do you get rid of your lawn? It's not as bad as you think. So the first thing you could do, and you can do this today, if you decide to go out there and you've taken your lawn survey, you've drawn up a plan, you can start today. Go out and shave the lawn down as close as you can, cut it down as close to the ground as possible. If now would be a good time because the grass really isn't actively growing. If you've been watering that area, stop watering it and let it go dormant. Then you cover it up with a really thick layer of arborist wood chips that are free, because you can either flag down one of the trucks that's cutting down trees in your area, or if you live in Longview and some of the other areas around here too, they offer, the counties go down and cut down trees for utility lines and such, grind them up, and they haul them away somewhere. Usually in Longview, it's out at Roy Morse Park. And all you have to do is go out there with a truck and a couple of strong backs and get them into your truck and bring them to your house. But it's got to be really thick to prevent the weeds from coming up. It'll kill the grass. It'll kill all the weeds. And after about 4 weeks, I would probably give it more. After about 4 weeks, check and see if the grass is alive. If it's not, then it might be ready to plant, but it's easy when it's easy to dig through, where the grass was is easy to dig through, it's time to plant. And all you have to do is uncover the area that you covered with the arborist wood chips, dig your hole, plant your plant, and put about 4 inches of mulch on it and spread the rest out. After you've had a chance to plant the whole area the way that you want to, then you can move the mulch around to different parts of your lawn and use it for landscaping. It's really easy to do. It's not a backbreaker. You just have to be a little bit patient. And this is such an important thing. If you plant, like I did, plant your plants with my hydrangea. I thought I was planting in partial sun or partial shade. They like morning sun, afternoon shade, which I thought I had. I did not. And I deserve everything I got with those because I did not plant the right plant in the right place. I think I'm going to move them into pots and put them on my porch where they'll get light, but no bright sun. So anyhow, when you're planning to do that, read the plant labels, make sure that the plant that you're planting will suit the area in your yard that you're putting it in. You know, our hardiness zones are, the USDA has a hardiness zones map, and most of us are in 8A or 8B. And the problem with 8A and 8B, there are places in South Carolina that are also 8A and 8B, and we don't have a climate anywhere near them. That just tells you the low temperature that your plants the plants can handle. So what we need is an alternative source for information, and there are a lot of them out there. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But you need to designate watering zones, high, medium, and low, and you want to put all the plants that have low water needs together, and they also have to have, you know, the same light and soil needs. You want the ones that, like annuals perhaps, or your trees or shrubs that are very important to you. They need to be closest to the water source, and other ones variously arranged in your yard. All the plants that you plant are going to need supplemental watering in addition to rainfall for the first couple of years. Even the most drought resistant plant that you plant is going to need that for the next couple of years. After that, usually they can survive the summer with little or no additional water. You'll have to check it, and you'll want to check it as you get used to your plants being where they are, to make sure that you've got the right plant in the right place. You can see here that people are very careful about what they plant where. You want the high watering zones, again, to be small, highly maintained areas like the entrance to your home or lawn areas. And that's where you want to put the thirstiest plants. Know what the light needs are. Full sun is a minimum of 6 hours. Light shade is 3 to 5 hours of direct summer sun, and it can also be morning sun, afternoon shade, because it gets, you know, like 5 hours of morning sun, and that's not nearly as hot as the afternoon sun. Deep shade would be like under your porch where there's no light, and full shade is an hour of direct sunlight or less. Dappled sunlight throughout the day is really good for a lot of things, but not for others. You've got to read the label and know what your plant, the plant that you want, needs. And we'll go into that. I'll give you some places where you can look to see that. So smart watering, how are we going to manage that? Least effective is overhead watering. For one thing, there's evaporation. It increases plant disease if you get water on the leaves, and you actually don't have a chance to control what water actually goes into the soil. I had a fella in yesterday at our plant and insect clinic. He was having trouble after that big heat wave that we had with the trees that he had. They were pretty singed. And I said, the first thing that you can do is water the trees. If you water the trees, that'll give them a little bit of a kind of like a vaccination against too much heat evaporation. He says, oh, I'm retired, I'll just go out and spray it. I said, you know, that's really not going to do it. What it needs is slow trickle type irrigation, you know, with a soaker hose, or go out there with a trickle on a hose and move it around the tree over probably a period of several hours. That ground needs to get wet down to the level of the roots so that the roots can actually use it. And overhead spraying just doesn't do that. I mean, we're standing there for 30 minutes and we think we're getting it where it goes, but we're not. It needs to go in slow or it's going to run off, especially when it's this hot out and the ground is so dry. Drip irrigation is probably the best way because you have more control over what plant gets the water. It also helps to keep weeds down because you're only watering for that plant's roots. And if the weeds can't get water, they're not going to grow. Soaker hoses are good for densely planted areas because you want the water to get to all the plants. But if you're putting that in areas that aren't densely planted, you're also watering the areas where weeds could grow. Sprinklers, not such a good idea, except for perhaps grass, if that's the way you have to do it, but make sure that you do it in the morning and use a timer. So the recommendation is always to water deeply and less frequently. Why do you think? Well, it's because if you water deeply, it gets down to the roots. The water is used by the plant, and then you can wait a while as it uses it and then water again. If you just water, just the surface, the roots are going to grow toward that water, which means that if it does dry out, those roots that have been seeking surface water are going to dry out quickly. You want those roots to seek down where they'll be safer. The other thing to do is to check and make sure the water isn't running off the surface. If it is, like if you've got clay soil or extremely dry soil like we have right now, water it very slowly, and you can do it in like water it for 20 minutes and stop. Give it a chance to soak in. Water it again in another 20 minutes. And in high heat and low humidity, like we had that all summer, but those 3 days that we had, your plants need more. The reason that the plants shriveled, the leaves shriveled up and died on so many plants, they pull the water, the roots pull the water out of the soil, give it to the leaves. When the amount of water coming from the roots is less than what the leaves can breathe in and out, they close up. They don't allow any more heat loss. Unfortunately, when they're closed up like that, that makes them really, really vulnerable to the rays of the sun and heat. And that's why they all crisped up like that. And the best thought I can give you for lawn care, and this is from OSU, they've done a lot of turf research down there. 1 inch a week divided into 5 sessions of 2/10 of an inch each. And the reason they say that is grass is one exception to the water deeply and less frequently. The roots of the grass don't go down that deep. They don't need to go down that deep. And if you're just overwatering, if you give it 1 inch in 1 day, if you give it in 5 sessions of smaller amounts, it's much better for the grass. And the better grass you have, if you fertilize it, water it, and mow it properly, you'll have a healthy lawn and fewer weeds. And again, prioritize your needs. The plants that mean the most to you, make sure that they are watered carefully. You may not want to use annuals for summer color. We've got some beautiful perennials out there that we can use, and they do pretty well because they come up every year and they have better root systems because they have all winter there to develop better ones. Go out into your garden. You could probably do that right now and get an idea of what drought stress looks like. This will give you an idea of whether or not your plants need more water on a regular basis. If the soil's too wet or too dry, you can have similar issues with the leaves. If the roots can't, there's got to be oxygen in the soil for the plant to be able to use water and nutrients. And if the water's too soggy, you end up with leaves that can't get moisture too. In our summers, that's not the problem usually, unless you really, let the hose run too long. But look at leaves that look like this. If you see burnt tips and the edges of the leaves burned, you've got a problem. Another problem that you'll see if you've got drought stress is wilting and premature leaf drop. But there's a wilting that can occur, and you see this very frequently with plants like hydrangeas. They'll wilt in the middle of the day. You check the soil, it's nice and damp, and you think, hey, what's going on? Well, those leaves shut down. They're just waiting for the cool of the night. Check again in the morning, the leaves will probably be just fine. I've seen that happen with rose bushes and a lot of different perennials too. If they aren't fine in the morning and the soil is dry, watered, or if the soil's dry that night and they're wilted watered, But if their soil's dry or wet in the morning and they haven't popped up, then you've got another problem. The plant might not be in the right place. If the leaves have turned brown like that, they're not going to change. You may as well trim them off and learn from your mistakes. Some plants will work, some won't. We've learned that the hard way in our gardens, and I'm trying to put the plants that I know do well with low water needs in and get rid of the other ones. Mulching. On so many levels, this is just so important. The best thing that you can use is, again, the free wood chips. The reason we don't like bark dust or bark chips so much is that they're hydrophobic. They have a coating on them, because bark does, to protect the tree, but it also can prevent the moisture from not only getting into the soil where it belongs, but it repels water. Where wood chips, they're big enough pieces that the water can get down in there to the soil where it needs to go. And the wood chips can get, they soak up water like a sponge too, where the bark chips don't. And they are much better able to retain soil moisture. You can also use landscape cloth and river rock and gravel, but wood chips is probably the best organic option. Again, it reduces evaporation. And if you're using wood chips, about 4 inches of wood chips, you're not going to end up with weeds. The organic mulch also helps to keep the soil cooler too, which is really important in the summertime when we have heats like we did. And the really good thing is it improves soil structures and helps to support the soil organisms that break down the organic matter that's in the soil. And when that happens, we end up with lots of nutrients that helps to prevent or helps to feed our plants. So we'll have to use less fertilizer to keep them going. So 2 to 4 inches. 4 inches is probably better, but make sure that you keep it away from the base of the plant. So we're almost to the fun part, the place where there's lots of eye candy. Maintaining your garden. I talked about this a little bit earlier. Get out there and check on your garden on a regular basis. See if any of the dead branches need trimmed off. Do you have a problem with any kind of pest or disease? Fertilize if necessary. Know what the needs of your plants are. When should you fertilize? When should you prune? If you don't know, contact us at the Plant and Insect Clinic and we can give you a hand. Make sure that you pull weeds if you have any, because they compete with your plant for moisture and nutrients. Make sure that your irrigation system is giving the right amount of water at the right time and the right place. And if you aerate your lawn and thatch it, if necessary, that's going to also help to allow water to get in there better, and you'll make better use of water. Now we're going to talk about the plants that you might want to choose. I've got some wonderful slides, and if time permits, which it probably won't, I've got some slides from Neil Bell from OSU, who put on a presentation about drought resistance plants, and he's got slides with native plants that is, they're just stunning. So the big thing is you want to plant a selection for year-round interest, not only for your eyes, but to provide habitat and food for the wildlife around us. One of our master gardeners, Adam Weeks, is going to be talking about that in a few weeks, so make sure that you come back. I wanted to show you real quick, a couple of the sites here that have good information. Monrovia has one. You go in and you set up filters, and they've got a lot of different plants that you can look at that are considered to be, either full, you can say full sun, cold hardiness zone, and water saving, and it'll pull up a lot of them. I've given you some links for this one. You can look up something that looks attractive to you. It tells you what you get, the height, the hardiness zone. It doesn't take much water, part sun. It's deer resistant. Here's another one. This is a different site yet. It gives you some ideas as far as shrubs goes. It starts with shrubs, and then it gives you all the characteristics of it. You know, how big it'll grow, how high it'll grow. Is it a native? What kind of light it needs?
Alice,
And
this is Marge. This is
yeah,
Marge. Can you tell us the last two sites? We have a small.
Marge, this is going to be available on the handout.
Okay, great.
So yeah, you'll be able to see it yourself. It's certainly a lot better than that. And here's some more. If you click on one of these, this is from King County. If you click on one that looks good, it'll give you the information for the plants. Okay. So again, any plant that you plant, any plant, even the drought resistant ones, need to have regular rainfall and regular irrigation until they're established. If you're going to use native plants aren't for everything and for everybody. You want to mimic their natural habitat as much as possible. You're not going to plant a sword fern, which likes to live in the shade of the forest or the edges of forest with a little bit of dappled sunlight in the middle of your south facing lawn. They're not going to do well. You want to put them in a place that mimics where they would like to grow. You can choose places that have a summer dry climate, Mediterranean plants. And again, all these resources I've given you will take the work out of doing that for you. And if you plant, if say you've got 2 plants that are 3 plants that at their mature growth will be 3 feet apart, or will be 3 feet, you want to plant them about 1.5 feet, 3 feet apart, so that you're going to have the leaves touching each other. That'll help to keep soil moisture in too. And repetition is good, as far as I've been told. I don't have an artistic bent. Repetition is good in a landscape. You want several of the same plant in different areas to draw the eye. Low growing varieties are best close to the house. It's just a good fire-wise idea to do, to keep it so that if there is a wildfire, that the tall vegetation, the tindery type of vegetation, isn't real close to the house. So here are some ideas. Look at that ceanothus. I never knew that there was a ground cover ceanothus. It's beautiful. And I'm just going to flip through these because I'm hoping to get to some other ones too. But these are all water-wise. These are mostly native. Lavender is beautiful. And it's evergreen. It looks pretty all the time. Rosemary also makes a very attractive plant in your landscape. California poppy. Some of the euphorbias are beautiful too. And everybody knows wisteria. You got to be careful with that. It can take the roof right off that house. And this, I've never seen this Vitis vinifera purpurea. It's really pretty, beautiful colors. And here are some grasses. Look at that northern sea oats. Wouldn't that be beautiful in a landscape planting? And some of the ground covers. And here's some ideas. This person got rid of part of their lawn. They already had a good start, but look what they did to it. I mean, it's gorgeous. Same house, different setup. I'm assuming this is the backyard. Look at the difference here. They haven't, obviously this is new planting. It hasn't had a chance to grow in yet, but it makes a big difference. That's a rain garden there on the right. I thought this was neat. The person on Flickr posted her backyard when they were looking at the house before they bought it, and she decided to get rid of some of the lawn along the back wall of the garden, planted her water resistant plant or her water efficient plants. And this is what she did with the rest of the yard. It's very welcoming, very beautiful, very low landscape. She plans on getting rid of more of the lawn with some different, like back over there where she's got the picnic table and the chairs. She wants to make that a separate little area, and she's going to do that, she said, by putting pavers in. Here are other couple ideas. What people did, they had, you know, big grassy backyards, and they changed it around. It's very pretty. Look at that. I've got to go get me some of that Turkish speedwell. It is absolutely drop dead gorgeous, and I don't think I've ever seen it before. You can walk on it. They've replaced some of their grass back here with water permeable pavers, and they've got a couple different kinds of ground cover that grows between the pavers that makes it look pretty. You can make a waterfall, but make it with, you know, delineate an area to make it look like a waterfall with some kind of a ground cover. It just makes me want to get out into my yard and make changes. This is somebody's front yard. It probably wouldn't fly in a lot of neighborhoods with the big green grasses, but if you only transform part of it into this, it would probably be acceptable to the neighbors, and you'd be doing, you know, you'd have a good water-wise garden, or you could plant some kind of a lawn alternative that's green. Here's an idea somebody had. They have a rope there, so if it rains, they've got the rain chain down there, and they've made kind of a water garden there. Lots and lots of ideas. I like the one on the left a lot. That's lush. So I'm going to show you some more. We have a couple. I'm going to take 5 minutes and show you some of the native plants that Neil Bell was kind enough to share with me. So we talked about why we do want to conserve water here, even though it's wet in the wintertime. We talked about how important it is to be able to plan your garden, have good soil, minimize the turf, make sure that you plant the right plant in the right place. You're going to put the plants with similar needs together. Water so that it gets the base of the plant. Mulch to help conserve moisture and moderate soil temperatures and help with weeds, and maintain your garden on a regular basis to nip problems in the bud. Now, let me go over to, so here, these are some, let me start up here. Manzanitas. Did you know that Knick-Knick, our ground cover, and Manzanita are from the same genus? Look at that. That's one choice. Then Knick-Knick actually, unless it's in a really dry place here, has a lot of problems with our wet winters, because we're using, I guess that like Lowe's and stuff, they're selling a variety that was hybridized for back east, and we see a lot of disease on them. If you get the native one, they can usually handle it if it's planted in an area that is very arid. But here's another one, a different Manzanita. That's also Manzanita, and that's the flower on it. These are all Manzanitas, different kinds. I could see these in a planting bed at my house. And here's Oregon grape. Oregon grape has the prettiest yellow flowers, and evergreen. Here's, look at that rosemary. And red flowering currant is really pretty in the springtime. And clove currant, I don't think I've ever seen that. And look at this one, fuchsia flowered gooseberry. Serviceberry, thyme, rock rose. There are a lot of different kinds of rock rose out there. That's one. This is one too. Look at the different colors. And that's also a rock rose, as is that. Look how pretty they are together. Again, rock rose. Okay, let's look at Spanish lavender. And what else does he have here? The ceanothus. There are so many different kinds of ceanothus. I didn't know about it. And ceanothus don't do well if you overwater them. You shouldn't water them in summer once they're established. They'll die if their roots are too wet. Look at that. You have to have a big space for some of these ceanothus, but there are some small ones out there. That's another ceanothus. That's carpet broom. Isn't that gorgeous? And another one of carpet broom. Jerusalem sage. I mean, there are so many options here. Snowberry. That's oregano. Oh, isn't that pretty? And of course, some of the wild roses that we have here, the native roses, I should say. Okay. That's about it. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.